Here we go. Here's an old video that I just came across that I'm gonna repost, that I'm going to record so it goes out on another channel. He was probably killed. He was silenced because he spoke the truth, and you're going to hear some truth about James. And the guy that's talking about this is from Silver Report and Uncut. He does a really good job explaining this. Here we go.
Welcome to the Silver Report Uncut. Now, somebody brought this up yesterday, and it's very interesting. Whenever you go and try to look this up, what you find as far as videos, in fact, the video has all been scrubbed from the internet. All that remains in the video that is supposed to be the same speech is not the same speech whatsoever. So I wanted to go over this Traficant speech because I think it's a very important part of history that must be accessible to people. So this is from Representative James Traficant Jr. of Ohio when he addressed the House of Representatives March 17, 1993. He begins, "Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the U.S. government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say it is a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933. 48 Stat 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt, being bankrupt and insolvent, HJR 192, 73rd Congress M Session, June 5, 1933. Joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States in the official capacities of all United States government offices, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. The receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers, via the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. All United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status in name only under the emergency war powers. With the constitutional Republican form of government now dissolved, the receivers of the bankruptcy have adopted a new form of government for the United States. This new form of government is known as a democracy, being an established socialist communist order under a new governor for America. This act was instituted and established by transferring and or placing the office of the Secretary of Treasury to that of the governor of the International Monetary Fund."
I'm cutting in real quick. So, pretty much, as it states in what was just stated, the democracy, because we're no longer a republic, this is a communist regime style nation, and since most of us alive been birthed into it, we know no different. We claim we're not something when we're exactly what we claim not to be.
Public Law 94-564, page 8, section HR 13955 reads in part, quote, "The U.S. Secretary of Treasury receives no compensation for representing the United States," unquote. So the Federal Reserve System is a sovereign power structure separate and distinct from the federal United States government. The Federal Reserve is a maritime lender and or maritime insurance underwriter to the federal United States, operating exclusively under Admiralty maritime law. The lender or underwriter bears the risks, and the maritime law compelling Specific performance in paying the interest or premiums are the same. Assets of the debtor can also be hypothecated. To pledge something as a security without taking possession of it as security by the lender or underwriter. The Federal Reserve Act stipulated that the interest on the debt was to be paid in gold. There was no stipulation in the Federal Reserve Act for ever paying the principal. Prior to 1913, most Americans owned clear, allodial title to property, free and clear of any liens or mortgages until the Federal Reserve Act 1913 hypothecated all property within the federal United States to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, in which the trustees held legal title. The U.S. citizen was registered as a beneficiary of the trust via his or her birth certificate. In 1933, the federal United States hypothecated all of the present and future properties, assets, and labor of their subjects. The 14th Amendment, U.S. citizen to the Federal Reserve System. In return, the Federal Reserve System agreed to extend the Federal United States Corporation all the credit it needed. Like any other debtor, the federal United States government had to assign collateral and security to their creditors as a condition of the loan. Since the federal United States didn't have any assets, they assigned the private property of their economic slaves, the United States citizens, as a collateral against the unpayable federal debt. They also pledged the unincorporated federal territories, national parks, forests, birth certificates, and nonprofit organizations as collateral against the federal debt. All has already been transferred as payment to the international bankers. Unwittingly, America has returned to its pre-American Revolution feudal roots, whereby all land is held by a sovereign and the common people had no rights to hold a loyal title to property. Once again, we the people are the tenants and sharecroppers renting our own property from a sovereign in the guise of the Federal Reserve Bank.
Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. You don't own shit. And until we fix this criminally corrupted system, it is a predatory system. Nothing is going to change. You're going to keep having false flag attacks with COVID-19s, 2008 financial hostile takeovers, etc., and endless wars because of these very people that we're dealing with daily, fucking the entire planet over with their scams.
We the people have exchanged one master for another. This has been going on for over 80 years without the informed knowledge of the American people, without a voice protesting loud enough. Now, it's easy to grasp why America is fundamentally bankrupt. Why don't more people own their properties outright? Why are 90% of Americans mortgaged to the hilt and have little or no assets after all debts and liabilities have been paid? Why does it feel like you are working harder and harder and getting less and less? We are reaping what we have sown, and the results of our harvest is a painful bankruptcy and a foreclosure on American property, precious liberties, and a way of life. Few of our elected representatives in Washington, D.C. have dared to tell the truth. The federal United States is bankrupt. Our children will inherit this unpayable debt and the tyranny to enforce paying it. America has become completely bankrupt in world leadership, financial credit, and its reputation for courage, vision, and human rights. This is an undeclared economic war, bankruptcy, and economic slavery of the most corrupt order. Wake up, America. Take back our country. So it's interesting that the man in 2002 was arrested and put in jail as a part of some sort of corruption scandal. And it's no surprise that he spent 7 years there, only to die while in jail. He represented Youngstown, Ohio from 1985 to 2002. He was reelected by the people, the voters who put him into office, and it was only being framed for corruption in 2002 that he would be expelled from Congress and spend the last 7 years of his life in prison. These are little known facts that most people are entirely in the dark about, they're completely unaware of, and it's something that cannot be brought out into the light. Some of the most powerful words, and I'll read it just one last time, quote, "We are reaping what we have sown. The results of our harvest is a painful bankruptcy and a foreclosure on American property, precious liberties, and a way of life. Few of our elected representatives in Washington, D.C. have dared to tell the truth. The federal United States is bankrupt. Our children will inherit this unpayable debt and the tyranny to enforce paying it," unquote. So it's words like that that will get you expelled from Congress. And we wonder why there's not any real representatives who ever run for office who ever make it on the main debate stage. There's never any real representatives of the people's interest. Because when anybody ever stands up against the true heart of a problem, which is corrupt, foreign banking cabal that is running everything in our lives, owns our houses, that is stripping the wealth out of the United States, if anybody were to ever stand up to speak out against it, regardless if they had been duly elected by the people and the citizens in this great republic, there are other means for being able to silence dissenting voices. It reminds me of some of the words of John F. Kennedy that he said just secretly about secret societies and secret oaths and secret proceedings. But he said something. He said, "No rumor is printed. No information is circulated about this. No rumor is printed. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised." So also in his speech, he talked about covert means being used people. That is secret means. That its hidden power structure is invisible to most people because they largely believe the lies they are told. And if you believe that that is somehow true, ask yourself, why was this man, after giving such a speech in Congress, removed? If it is not true, why such a big deal to go and sweep him away and silence his voice, to be able to prevent people and the citizens of the United States to understand just what is going on in our nation? But you know, it does not have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. I know that was kind of long, but I believe that this is something that needs to be preserved for the modern age, for modern history. And it's a shame that whenever you go to look up this video, it is scrubbed from the internet. And the only video that is put in place under the same name, because if you look up this speech under the same name, James Traficant Jr. addressing the House of Representatives March 17, 1993, you will be presented with an entirely different video of him speaking, which is not even on the same day because he's not wearing the same clothes that he was wearing when he actually gave this speech. So that's very interesting that the only thing presented, it comes from C-SPAN submitted by a private individual. And it's an entirely different subject, still covering things on the IRS, but an entirely different subject. Those kind of things are the reason that you really should be paying attention. That's why it's important.
You know, what he's telling you, and a lot of other people have been telling people in this country for far too long, and I think a lot of people do understand it and this and that, but since it isn't coming out in the mainstream media, people start questioning the double question about it, the truth. But they do know that when they look around, something is wrong to the system. It doesn't fit what we have been taught about our country, nor about the way our country is supposed to operate. We've been getting fucked, screwed, robbed, even murdered, conned, deceived, oppressed, and attacked by these people. And once again, right now, they're doing it to us again. That's what I've been trying to tell you people, that we are at war. The war is, they are at war with us. They are attacking us. They are stealing more of our shit is what they're doing, people. And you want out so bad, you don't care if they fuck you. They don't care if they steal from you. Long as you have what little no ball and chain freedom you think you have. You don't have to be in a prison. You don't have to be behind walls, to have a chain, handcuffs, to be an actual prisoner in your mind, okay? Stop being slaves to these criminals that are in power, that are in the fucking offices of our governments. The only way that we're going to fix this is if we arrest all of these pukes, starting, like I said, from your local mayors, because they are a part of the problem. Even if they don't know it, they are serving the problem, which makes them an accessory to the tyranny of the crimes. This is why no one ever stands up and says treason, because they're all committing it.